And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Okay, this morning's satellite imagery showing a front here coming down or moving into the interior, southwest and western interior Seward Peninsula, extending down across Kodiak Island and weakening as it moves in. Another band of moisture out here to the west as well. Otherwise, over the Northwest Pacific, we have storminess and looks like a area of cloudiness moving northward here across the eastern interior. But rain showing up now down over the along the North Gulf Coast. In fact, heavy rain reported at Cordova. Band of moisture sliding northwestward here, bringing heavy rain into Sitka during the late morning hours today, Sunday. And then some rain, Kodiak Island, spreading up into Homer and Seldovia, and areas of light rain showers over south central Alaska. Tomorrow morning's flying weather, IFR expected for the southeast coast, Gulf of Alaska, North Gulf Coast, Prince William Sound, marginal VFR over most of south central Alaska. Area marginal VFR mostly due to smoke here up over the Yukon River there in the north or the east central interior. VFR for the Brooks Range on out across the north slope to the Arctic coast. And for the Bering Sea, lots of IFR expected, including the Aleutians, Alaska Peninsula, Pribilofs northward to St. Lawrence Island to the Bering Strait. Marginal VFR a little bit to the east there, but not quite making it into the Kuskokwim Valley, mostly over the Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta with IFR along the coast. For the afternoon, marginal VFR advances east and a little bit to the northeast as the IFR kind of pulls back more along the coastline here or off the coast, in across Cape Newnham to Togiak, Makoriak, same thing, IFR expected, St. Lawrence Island, the Pribilofs, as well as the Aleutians. And interior Alaska looking pretty good, still VFR, areas of smoke creating some marginal VFR conditions here, right along the Yukon River and to the south into the Tanana Valley, and VFR Copper River Basin, Susitna Valley into northern Cook Inlet looking VFR, IFR here western Prince William Sound, possibly into Resurrection Bay. Marginal VFR, maybe a little bit of IFR around Kodiak Island. Panhandle improving to marginal VFR from the IFR early on. And then for the morning hours on Tuesday, IFR sliding into the southern southeast coast, and then scattered IFR up to the north, Lynn Canal, Glacier Bay. Yakutat looks like it'll be VFR to start the day. VFR, northern Cook Inlet, southern Susitna Valley, maybe into the Madanuska Valley as well. Marginal for Kodiak Island. Still smoky conditions creating marginal VFR in the east central interior. North Slope, Brooks Range, Noatak Valley down to Kotzebue, northern Seward Peninsula, all VFR. IFR out over the Bering Sea up to the southwest coast. And in the afternoon, again, IFR right along the southwest coast from the Bering Strait, covering much of the Bering Sea and the Aleutians. Marginal VFR from Unalaska Island along the Alaska Peninsula into Bristol Bay. Some areas of marginal VFR up along the western Alaska Range. Kodiak Island marginal. IFR now pushing in close to Yakutat, but mostly marginal for the Panhandle. Passes Anatuvik. VFR expected for the day tomorrow with Adigan looking pretty good as well. VFR flying there. And for the Western Alaska Range, Lake Clark and Merrill, marginal VFR. Rainy, marginal at times tomorrow. Windy though, go for another VFR day there. And Isabel, VFR for Isabel Pass. Mentasta, VFR. And Tanita, VFR. Portage, IFR in the eastern entrance, otherwise marginal, especially on the west side. And Chilkoot and White, marginal VFR. Freezing levels, 12,000 feet over the Yukon here, Northwest Territories, and about 10,000 feet, shows you that upper ridge. And then cooler air aloft sliding northward here with a trough, 8,000 feet in across the Barren Islands, about 10,000 feet for the Panhandle. And pretty good gradient here across the southern Bering Sea, 10 to 14,000 feet right across the Aleutians with cooler air, 6,000 feet, northern Bering Sea. Icing, maybe some areas of light rime icing here, possible south central Alaska, along the Yukon Delta, St. Lawrence Island with that persistent low out there. And the system spreading into the Panhandle here, bringing considerable moderate rime icing central coast down across the southern areas. And for the jet stream, not too bad wind-wise at this elevation, 33,000 feet. Low pressure off the north coast here, the Panhandle or the Central Coast. Stronger jet about 80 knots, but that's staying down near the Queen Charlotte Islands. Out to the west, we've got westerlies over the southern Bering Sea on the south side of this low complex to the north, up to 125 knots, 9,000 feet. Westerlies about 35 knots. Stronger winds at this elevation down south of the Aleutians. 45 knots, central Bering Sea there. Lighter, a little more southerly over the interior. Still a little breezy along the west coast areas. 50 knots south to southeast winds into the Panhandle at 9,000 feet. And 40 to 60 knot winds wrapping around the low here to the west-southwest of the southeast coast. Light and variable over interior Alaska, becoming southerly as you head west here, but not too bad out over the Bering Sea at 3,000 feet, maybe up to 25, 30 knots here from the Pribilofs up towards St. Lawrence Island. And turbulence, look for isolated moderate turbulence, surface 6,000 feet, Bering Strait, western Seward Peninsula down along the Yukon Delta to Nunivak Island, St. Lawrence Island included. And moderate turbulence expected over the central and southern Panhandle, especially Prince of Wales Island up to about Sitka.